Hi there, this is Kim. Today I'm going to be making a fun Halloween card using Tombow Dual Brush markers and A Muse Studio's dies. I taped a 4.5 by 6-inch piece of watercolor paper to an acrylic ruler. Just a word of caution to not use your heat gun to dry your watercolor paper when you're taping it to the ruler because it might mess up the ruler. The Tombow markers I'm using is a light blue, which is number 451, a darker blue, number 443. The pink is 703, and red is 847. Um, I'm using a combination of these colors to create shades of purple since I do not have those shades. It's just my way of mixing colors to get the desired color that I would like in the end. And this is also a great way to stretch your markers. I started out by coloring the lower 2/3 portion of the watercolor paper with a lighter shade of pink and blue, and then the top is the darker blue and the red. And I loaded the brush with a lot of water to saturate the paper and just kind of spread it out to create the desired watercolor effect that I was looking for. And as I'm going along, I noticed that I needed to make the top a little bit darker, so I added more red to it, and then I went over it again with more water to spread the color out. And once I was done, and while the paper's still wet, I sprinkled coarse salt all over, and I let it air dry, and then brush off all of the salt and just carefully peel off the tape so that it doesn't ruin your paper. And then I'm trimming it down to about 4 by 5 1/4. As you notice, the bottom I left white because that will be covered up. And so now I'm using the landscape die. It's a cloud shape that I'm using to die cut black paper. And by the way, I wanted more of a foggy kind of effect with the black, so I sponged it using black pigment ink instead of using black cardstock. And now I'm just measuring up the width of the clouds to match the card front so that I can make sure that it's the correct size. Once I got the placement of how I wanted it, I just using my Tombow marker to place a dot there so I know where to layer the clouds. And I like to press the glue down a little bit so that it stays put since the glue is wet. I wanted to adhere and bond to the layers before I moved on. And then the next thing I did was I used the Ghost Trio die to die cut the ghost, and there's 3 different sizes to this die set, and so I'm just randomly placing the ghost onto the card front. And I also did some watercoloring on a smaller piece of watercolor paper so that I could die cut the sentiment. And once I did that, I put glue sparingly onto the back of the sentiment and just rubbed the excess off with my finger and placed it on top of the cloud. I noticed there was a little bit more excess glue seeping out, and so I just used a napkin to dab it off. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. You can find more details on the supply list on my blog, and I will place a link below.